Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video, we will be talking about two systems that will be occurring in less than a week at this point. One of them actually occurring tonight and into tomorrow. Has dropped quite a bit of snow already and will continue across into the mid-Atlantic, so we'll have details about that. And we'll be also going over the potential for a Midwest snowstorm, another one, and for the Northeast this time. So if you guys would like to support the channel, you can do so by subscribing and liking the video, hitting the thumbs up button. That lets me know that you like them. And also, if you have any snowfall reports, consider to leave them down below. Any comments or concerns regarding the upcoming system, let me know. Otherwise, let's start talking about this. Okay, so first off, I want to look at snowfall reports from the system that is occurring, has occurred across the plains and into Colorado, Missouri, and it's now moving into Kentucky, into the Mid-Atlantic area. I do want to say briefly regarding our first system that occurred across the Midwest. Notice decent amounts fell across Chicago, Michigan. These are updated amounts from 24 hours, so a lot of the reports from Nebraska and Iowa are already out of date. They just already passed. Notice not bad amounts across the Northeast, 6-7 inches. New York City did not pick up too much as far as I'm concerned. There aren't many reports from here. You can see Boston got around 3 to 4 or 5 inches. Not bad also. 4 to 5 inches is definitely a decent snowfall. Notice right here, look at what happened across northwestern Kansas. A lot of snow actually, and quite a bit of it, so more than expected for sure. As we got into Missouri and into central Illinois, the amounts were also a bit higher than expected, but generally closer to what was expected. You could see 3 to 4 inches, and that's what I called for yesterday. I said that maybe up to 5 inches was possible, and if we were to zoom in, I think the highest amount is at 4 inches. Notice St. Louis got 2 to 3 inches. That's a nice snowfall. Kansas City did not pick up that much. Southern Missouri didn't get bad, especially, I'm assuming, across the higher elevations, maybe. Across the Ozark Hills, some 5-inch reports. Notice Springfield, 3.2 inches. And this will continue spreading into the south and east. Let's take a look at the advisory map, right? So notice that the advisories are across much of Kentucky, southern Indiana, Illinois, and into North Carolina, Virginia. And I mentioned yesterday that as easily as, or I could compare it to yesterday, that yesterday I was saying that it could overperform quite easily, and that seems to be the case. If you recall, yesterday the forecast for Kansas was a bit higher on the end, but it was definitely overperformed across into northwestern Kansas and southern Nebraska. Up to 9 inches was not really expected. And I do think that while it was more reasonable for the Missouri area, it could overperform again for Kentucky into southern Ohio, Indiana, and say Virginia into North Carolina. I think that the ingredients are there. Notice that this is relatively well organized. It is a pretty healthy system. We did have a bit of lake effect across Chicago, nothing too significant. Look at that, went right through St. Louis, Illinois, Indiana, really just dipped south of Indianapolis, so unfortunately that was a bit unfortunate. Notice Cincinnati got a good decent snowfall out of this. Lexington got in that snow for a few hours, and now it's really trudging along into portions of West Virginia now, Charleston, right? Tennessee mainly seeing rain out of this. But again, this will continue to progress and probably remain pretty expansive across the Mid-Atlantic. Now, this doesn't look like to be a massive system, but it does have the potential to overproduce by a few inches compared to what's forecasted for. And let me just go over the model guidance first, and then we could look at what the National Weather Service is saying. Notice, Kentucky, Indiana, right now this is what the HERR model shows as of 5 p.m. and relatively does a good job. It is a bit more apparent, the snowfall, than what the HERR model shows. The HERR model is a bit underestimating of this, but I think it was still a better model than for, say, the European, which up until even yesterday or 2 days ago, it was showing a miserable system. Notice this the system brings snow into Virginia, West Virginia. Look at that. It brings widespread snow into southern Virginia, Carolina, North Carolina. Okay, and then look at that. It takes it well into the coastal areas, especially further towards the north into the kind of area where North Carolina meets Virginia, and then possibly up towards even southern Delaware, some light snow, while it shouldn't be accumulating up there. South Carolina not picking up much out of this, but notice that areas in North Carolina, the coastal areas, larger cities there could definitely pick up on a few inches, especially if this overperforms even more so than what the HERR model is showing now. I do want to say that our next system, which will be a snow producer on Saturday and Sunday for the Midwest and a potential nor'easter, is moving into California as of late today, early tomorrow. Notice lots of snow again, lots of rain for the West. Definitely good news. They have been getting a lot, but it's good news as they are in a drought. Total snowfall, I wanted you to take a look at this. Let's go to the Mid-Atlantic. Is that a region? I must be a region. No? Alright, northeast, that'll probably encapsulate the best of it. Notice it could extend further south. Look at this. Kentucky, potentially 2 to 3 more additional inches if you live across Kentucky and you have snow on the ground. Let me know, by the way, if you live in Missouri, St. Louis, wherever you may be. Sorry, I got lost there. Wherever you got snow, please let me know how much snow you got. I would be definitely interested to see, especially once the system passes into North Carolina, Virginia. Folks that live there, please tell me how much snow you got, because yes, I could look at these snowfall reports, but I could get a wider source if you guys provide additional reports as well. Notice up to potentially 5, maybe 6 inches approaching North Carolina. Again, this is assuming a 10-to-1 ratio, which is probably going to be a bit high for this event. This will be very wet, heavy snow. So I would say 3 to 4 is more appropriate, as this will probably be, a more compacted, heavy, wet snow. But honestly, that's for the good that there's not much more than 5 inches. As at that point, that could get, from a point of being minor to rather significant and potentially life-threatening, as there's less operations and less snow plows, less tools for snow removal. They obviously do have snow plows, but 6 inches plus is a lot of snow. And we didn't have a 6-inch plus event here in Chicago for I think almost 2.5 years, 2 years, and I forgot how much 6 inches of snow is. It's a lot. It's a pain to shovel, and it's not pleasant. Right? Let's look at North Carolina and see how much snow they're forecasting. Notice that they're forecasting 2 to 3. Well, I think that is reasonable. I would not be surprised to see some of these amounts a bit higher. And the National Weather Service does go a bit more conservative, but it's way more appropriate to call 2 to 3, 3 to 4 than 6 inches, and then it underperforms, right? Which is still a good bet that could happen. The HRRR model is one of the more aggressive ones. Not the most aggressive one, which I'll show you in just a bit. Let's take a look at what is it? Windsor. And I'm probably mispronouncing that. Windsor. Notice 1 to 3 inches, less than 1 inch. So that's a decent event, especially since it's so close to the shore. Norfolk. Notice into I think that is Virginia. Yes. Notice less than 1 inch, half an inch. Again, I would say 1 to 2 is definitely a possibility, especially based off trends that have been occurring. Take a look at Kentucky. Very heavy snow is falling across some of these locations. This is Wichita. This isn't Kentucky. It's kind of glitches out sometimes. It hooks onto one certain area and shows it up. If I were to take a look at, let's say, Moorhead, just south of there, I would assume snow is falling. The radar, yeah. Light snow, probably a bit heavier than light snow. Snowfall amounts from this system, what they're forecasting to happen is 2 to 3 inches overall, right? I do think there will be some higher amounts, for sure, as the snow is falling very heavily. And winter storm warnings across certain counties, that probably indicates heavier snow. 2 to 4 inches, again, I wouldn't be surprised if that's a bit more widespread, as the system did kind of overperform across northwestern Kansas. And let's take a glance at other models. So that was just one model, the NAM12KM. What it shows, you can see it shows some isolated higher amounts, and this was one model that even up until yesterday in the afternoon was still showing in less than an inch across these areas. So I would not be surprised to have some amounts approaching 6 inches isolated, and probably towards the mountains, right, in Virginia. But even the coastal areas could pick up on a 5-inch event from a seemingly miserable small system. It's it's winter. Despite that being it's pretty far to the south. It has a lot of moisture to work with, and being on Atlantic Ocean, it does develop into a large system, but just further off the coast. Doesn't mean it can't dump a few inches. NAM3KM, the more high-res version, you can see still shows a bit of snow, right? RGEM, a high-res Canadian model, you can see puts out decent snow as well. And one model that is a very strong advertisement of very heavy snow for the Mid-Atlantic with that system is the GFS Parallel. And let's take a look at its most recent model run. Notice that's where it centers it, right? And this model was just pretty extreme on the snow across the Kansas area. One of the models that predicted the heavier amounts, and that came true across Kansas. It did overperform slightly across Missouri, this model. So only 2 to 3 inches fell. Still a decent model run from the GFS Parallel, far superior from the European on this system in particular. Notice it shows very heavy snow potentially into North Carolina, Virginia. Again, it takes it off very quickly off the coast, which keeps it from being a large snowmaker. It does turn big. Some winds will be possible, and that could be dangerous, especially if you have shrubs or trees that could get winded down with that snow, and they could get piled on by that snow and then brought heavy winds upon them. Notice it shows again still from yesterday, if you recall, it was one of the models that showed up to 10 inches. It still shows that. I don't think there will be 10-inch amounts, though I do think some 6-inch isolated amounts are possible, and that the National Weather Service may be going on the lower side of things, especially from what we've been seeing. I could actually take a look back at what it was showing. So yes, yesterday at say midnight, and what it showed in terms of snowfall amounts. Look at this. What it showed across Kansas was 1 to 2 inches, and again 6 inches fell, up to 8, even more inches. Right, so it significantly underperformed for this area, and really all models did. Notice it still showed a really accurate representation of what did happen across Missouri today and into Illinois. So seeing these amounts of 8-10 inches isn't completely irrational, especially given this model was accurate for the first half of the system. Now, of course, some people may say, oh, this is assuming a 10-to-1 ratio, put on the Kuchera, this snow will be heavy and wet. And again, assuming even a Kuchera, some of these amounts could get pushing towards that 6-inch range. And of course, the snow that's right here, this is old model run, so that's from the previous system that already occurred. We could see even yesterday's afternoon model run, the 18Z, right? Notice it showed 2 to 3 inches. At this point, the system was already unraveling across Kansas, and it dropped 8 inches, right? Generally did a really good job with this system right here. In fact, it did not show 4 inches, and that's what ended up occurring across some locations. And look, that's what it shows as of yesterday in the evening, and this is what it shows as of today. You could see it still shows those higher amounts, even assuming a Kuchera ratio up to 10-11 inches, a 10-to-1 ratio, obviously a bit higher. So that is exciting news. I'll just go through the other models and show you what the high-res European model is showing. Notice it did a decent job with this right here, but again, up until a few days ago, it kept it pretty weak. Look at that, up to 4 inches. And again, this was one of the models that's kept it a bit weaker, and it has since expanded the snowfall amounts over the past couple of model runs. It's assuming a 10-to-1 ratio, but again, this snow will be heavy and wet, but probably close to an 8 to 9, so still relatively accurate. The European was, again, one of the lighter going scenarios, and it still shows 4 inches. Canadian was, I don't remember what exactly it showed, whether it was aggressive or not, but as of now, you can see it shows a relatively similar mimicking of the European model, though it does have pockets of heavier snow, potentially well over 6 inches. There was one model I did want to show you. I showed the European, Canadian, the United Kingdom model. Generally a decent model, and in this case you can see it goes lighter, but it does have some heavier amounts still. So decent event for you folks still is on tap for the Mid-Atlantic. And let's start talking about this new system that many of you may have clicked on this video for, the Northeast, the Midwest, right? Let's start talking about this. Precipitation type and rate. I think the European has done the best job on this upcoming system. Not this little guy right now, but the one for the weekend. And the reason for that is it showed a system in a particular orientation that then the GFS kind of adjusted to. And the other models did as well. I would say that European or the Canadian have done equally good jobs with this system that is coming on here. And they haven't really remained too changed on it. So notice, right, lots of rain, lots of snow coming into the western United States tonight, into Thursday, tomorrow afternoon. Lots of snow pushing further into Arizona, New Mexico. So again, good news for those areas with the drought. I do want to say there could be some ocean effect into Boston, Cape Cod, as this system draws a massive winspan and also rain span. Look at that, and maybe into Maine, into Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, further out into Canada. Sometimes, ocean effect is very hard to predict, especially if it's off the shore. Notice that it gets awfully close, even to larger cities like New York City, so don't get caught off guard. And look at that, the European actually pivots a pretty heavy band of snow onto Cape Cod at around the late Friday afternoon hours, so definitely keep an eye on for that. Notice that as we track this forward, we have this system, right, moves across the west, more snow. They have been getting so much snow, which is 100% good news. Notice we see this system blow up across the plains right away. It doesn't waste any time. It is very far to the south, has a ton of abundant moisture from the south, taps into the Gulf of Mexico right away. There's a high pressure which drives enough chilly air for this to tap into, enough cold air, and this rain transitions over to snow across Iowa, Illinois, Minnesota, and look at that, it pushes northward. Now again, if you're looking at this, it is still a far out system relatively, and it looks as if snow will be occurring across this general area, but where exactly the heaviest will fall, the European favors the Quad Cities. You see very, very heavy snow with the rain snow line approaching and almost reaching them and actually transitioning it potentially to a bit of rain. Now again, this line could get into the Chicago area, or it could not even go north of Quad Cities. So there's a lot of details that still have to be arranged. The models are in relatively good agreement. They're not all over the place, which is good always. And notice that this is what the system does, right? It dumps, say, look at that, Iowa, southern Wisconsin, Illinois. It shows snow for a prolonged period of time. Indiana, Ohio, lots of snow as well. Into the mid-Atlantic, North Carolina, Virginia. While this may transition over to rain, you get a good 6 hours of snowfall, if not more, to the north. Right, DC picks up on some snowfall. And look what starts happening here. The system, original one, falls apart. Very strong winds, by the way, with this. And we start seeing a resurging low pressure coming from the south of the southeast. And it taps right into the Atlantic Ocean. Look at that. It starts creating abundant amounts of precipitation across the Virginia area, Pennsylvania. While it is a bit scattered, this may be underestimated by the European models. Some models show a rather organized system at this point already. Okay, and notice that the rain snow line encapsulates most of Delaware as rain and Maryland. This could still go further up to the north, this rain snow line, or it could shift further to the south. At this point, I would say this is a reasonable scenario where southern Pennsylvania, Philadelphia is right on that rain snow line. With this scenario, you would be picking up some rain, some snow initially, and then transitioning over to some rain. New York City, same thing. Lots of ice, potentially snow, but also a good, bet for rain if this does take a more northern track. But look at that. I mean, just good amounts of snow for the areas that do see it. Boston initially sees a thud of snow transitioning over to rain, and that thing stays around for a while. And just to let you know, a few days behind that system, we see another beast, right? And again, on that one, there's lesser confidence. This one. All right, let's take a look at the total snowfall accumulations and see how much the models paint. So that's from tonight's system, the European. Again, I think it's a little bit going on a lighter side of things. Notice the ocean effect potentially reaching into Cape Cod with, look at that, 5 inches, potentially into the coast of Maine. Again, this nor'easter that brings snow into the Carolinas will develop into a rather potentially significant system, to say the least. And that will obviously bring in some snow. How far inland gets, and how much will the coastal areas get. For those details, go to the National Weather Service, as they are your best source for any of this. This is just a hobbyist. I'm a hobbyist, and I do this for the fun of it. And we just like to talk about the weather. But of course, I would never put myself self above the National Weather Service, as they are the ones in charge. They are the ones that put out the best information. They are the ones that issue the warnings, watches, and everything else that I base my intuition off of, if you will. So check them out. You could critique the Weather Channel, you could critique AccuWeather, but the National Weather Service is by far the most reputable source, even if they get things wrong. Notice that into this weekend, what we see is, a snow band that sets up across further to the south than what we had with this previous system. Notice southern Wisconsin getting in on some snow, but again, this could be a bit further to the north, to the south. Southern Michigan doesn't pick up on much. Again, this could shift still easily to the north. Look at that. Iowa, Illinois, Chicago picking up generally kind of around over 6 inches. Minneapolis getting close to some 3 to 4 inches. Again, it could be a bigger event if this does switch up a bit, which it's potentially going to do. Indianapolis potentially getting a big one out of this. Northern Indiana, Southern Ohio, Kentucky, right? Northern Kentucky. Look at that. Then we start seeing that nor'easter develop. And look how much snow it brings to Philadelphia, over a foot. Very, very close, like we had with that previous system in December. But it's there nonetheless, the threat. Boston picking up potentially over a foot as well. And, if this system stalls out for a few days, look what it shows right outside of DC area, kind of near Baltimore, the Northern Virginia, over 20 inches of snow. So that has been consistent by some models. Canada not picking up too much, it seems, out of this. Notice Toronto maybe getting in on some of that. But again, this just needs a bit further to the north of a placement. And a lot of this could shift further into, say, Montreal, Ottawa. They do end up picking up on some snow, especially near Quebec and Ottawa, noticed. And then later on, look at that, another system following that. Overall, I do want to say that for my snow lovers, February looks active, beyond active. And just to show you what the GFS parallel shows, this is what it shows with tonight's system, right? It has done a very good job with what it showed across Missouri and Kansas. So this isn't out of the question in terms of the amounts. They may be a bit higher, but a more aggressive scenario isn't out of the question. And notice that we do see that ocean effect, that 7-inch mark getting very close to northern Massachusetts, right? Cape Cod definitely picking up on some snow. Notice we have that system develop. This GFS parallel brings this band of snow further to the north, not into Indianapolis, but more into northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, southern Michigan, which also has been lacking on snow this year quite significantly. Notice though, it does bring snow, decent snows into Indianapolis, central Indiana, ranging from 3 to 5 to 6 inches. And then look up into the northeast, generally, generous amounts as well. So this is another model that has been deathly consistent with this system. So at this point, I would say this scenario or what the European is showing are the most likely. Notice in a longer range, the parallel does bring out more storms, more snow chances, even some that are further to the south. So let's take a look at the Canadian model. This is a relatively good model. I think it's still better than the operational GFS. Let's see what it shows. Look at see. Ocean effect, Cape Cod potentially seeing 3 to 4 inches. Notice the west again, very heavy amounts of snow into Idaho, Nevada, Salt Lake City potentially getting another snow event. With La Nina patterns, historically, there has been always some kind of extreme. And in this case, this year, it looks as if it's going to be just the active late part of the winter. It doesn't look like if the West is going to take any breaks from the snowfall they've been getting. They have been getting quite a bit. It earlier was focused more into the Northwest. Now it's starting to focus more towards the South and Mid-South, and it doesn't look like that's going anywhere. A lot of snow is on its way, and the pattern looks active. Look at the Canadian, what it shows, right? Lots of snow, again, decent amounts for a large portion of the South, even including the Southwest. Starts blossoming snowfall across the Midwest into central Illinois, Indiana, so leaning definitely towards what the European is showing. But notice it does still bring decent snows into northern Illinois, Iowa, southern Wisconsin, potentially Indianapolis, Cincinnati, Columbus, Dayton, right? Decent amounts of snow to say the least. Minneapolis kind of gets left out from this one. Look what it starts showing across the Northeast. Also some increased snowfall threat. Again, lighter compared to what the European was showing. And notice more snow on its way. For example, maybe to the north. And look at the west, just continuously filling in with these copious amounts of snow. Some locations getting 130 inches within 10 days. So definitely a interesting scenario. I want to time this out for you just to show you that the Canadian does show that similar orientation of the system, right? Blossoming northern half of this system into snow, but it doesn't go as far to the north, and the system that develops across the northeast isn't as strong. Still, it brings the rain snow line further into southern New Jersey, New York, Philadelphia, giving those locations a good, potentially 6 to 12 inches. And then that's, it shows large storms in the long range. I do want to quickly show you the GFS parallel, but the radar rain/frozen. As the snow, I showed you this model already, but I just showed you the total snowfall, and that only goes out to 240 hours. I want to show you what this model shows further out into the long range. So, right, this is 240 hours, and you can see that this is another snowstorm. This isn't even the weekend nor'easter or the Midwest system. It's another system. And then right after that one, we get another system, potentially more of a coastal one. A lot of cold air with the GFS parallel. And as you push this, we're only in the 7th of February. We see potentially another system starting to develop across the northern United States. We could see 4 to 5 systems, in a matter of a week, a week and a half. This is, as many storms as we got into the whole month of October and into November. So very active, lots of snow potential. Let me show you the model viewer, which is the GFS ensembles. Look at it. 31 models, and this is what they think of that weekend system. Find your area across the Midwest. I will show the Northeast. Notice what it shows, right? Anywhere from 5, 6 to up to a foot across several locations. They do vary quite a bit, and I would say that the GFS family does not have the best handle on this. Notice that some centered across northern Illinois and none across, Indiana, or minimal amounts. Some just overall keep it weak, and some just center the very heavy snow across Indiana. So there's still a lot of details to figure out. Again, GFS ensembles did not prove good with the previous system. I don't think that they are doing the best with this system. Well, I do think they still have a better handle on it 100 hours out than they did with that previous one. Let's take a look at the Northeast with the same members. And East Coast, Northeast, that's just Northeast. This may cut off portions of the Mid-Atlantic. But again, the regions on this are a bit skewed. Okay, now it shows most of the area. Notice again that snow into tonight. Again, don't be expected if it don't be surprised if it overperforms. Look, 100, next 100, let's do 168 hours. Look at that. Models do range quite a bit, but a lot of them show potential into Pennsylvania, New York City, Boston, And you see that little square right there that's cut off in white? That is just an error of filling in. It wouldn't fill in even if there was heavy snow occurring. You could see that it's just like a little cut off there, but that would bring snow to New York. That would bring snow. That would bring snow. So again, a lot of stuff to talk about as we go into the next couple of days. That's why probably these videos will be pretty damn long, like in today's video, right? So let's take a glance now at, I want to show you the European ensembles, but they are not as fun to look at because they don't have like a nice layout where I could show you all of them at once. I'll have to go with them one by one, but let me show you the 5-day snowfall of, and that will only show the first half of the storm into the Midwest, and it will cut off the Northeast as it will be occurring kind of past that 5-day mark. Notice it does vary quite a bit, but it centers it further to the north, and there's less variance, and they all show a rather significant system. Look at that scenario right there. You know, not out of the realms of possibility. They could extend further into Iowa, maybe even Nebraska. And some models do bring the storm a bit earlier, so we have a peek at what it could occur across the Northeast. Now I'll show you the 5 to 10 day snowfall forecast. So it will start including some new snowstorms, but it'll show us what it thinks about the Northeast. Look, some don't do much, but then look at this one. A ton of snow, right? This one doesn't show as much. This one shows quite a bit. That one shows quite a bit. Again, a lot of cities and areas that will be seeing snow. For details at this point regarding the one in the Mid-Atlantic, go to the National Weather Service. Regarding the next one, it's still a bit too far out for details by the National Weather Service to put out, or even me to specify amounts. I could just tell you, whether or not you have a good chance of seeing. If you're still watching at this time of the video, I'm curious if you're still watching. If you're still watching, you can leave a normal comment that you usually do, but include the word snowy. And I want that's going to be the indicator that you're still watching. All right. Thank you so much. You're the best, and I'll catch you all guys on the next episode. See ya.